Hey, welcome aboard. So I'm just going to take you through the process of using the Shoplift data extractor and how you actually get some quick results from your LLM of choice. So hopefully by now you've found your way onto the extractor page. Super simple. I'll just downsize my screen so you can actually see what's going on here. But yeah, that's good. So just grab this button, woo, and then chuck it up into your bookmark section. So up here, I've already got it bookmarked, so I won't do it again, but it just lives up there. I think there might be a different way of doing this in different browsers, but that's the way that I'm used to doing it. Once you've got it living up in your browser, then all you need to do is jump into your Shoplift. I should have had this open. Jump into your experiment and hit the button, and then it'll be done. So I'll just show you an experiment that we ran a little while ago that needed some interpretation. So the lift was pretty much flat, but as you'll see in a second, there was actually a bit more to it than this. So it went through 28,000 people saw the test, which is usually enough to get some kind of reading out of it. But yeah, usually you see a bit more of a lift than 1.5. 1.5 is kind of in that range where it could be statistical error based on the traffic that this site has. So anyhow, let's hit our button. So you hit the button, Shoplift will jump through a few different views automatically, and then it will prompt you to download the file. So just download it wherever you want. And then you'll jump into your LLM of choice. I like using Claude. You can use ChatGPT, there's no problem with that. I just find that Claude's, at the moment, it's a little bit sharper in interpreting the results. It also speaks in a way that feels a little bit more natural. But in saying that, I actually use a prompt that I wrote in ChatGPT. So I'll just go through it quickly so you can understand what we're looking for. So the first thing we tell Claude, or whichever LLM you're using, is that we ran an A/B test in Shoplift and we're exporting the results as a JSON. Now, you need to input four things for your LLM to have the context to be able to help you interpret what's going on. The first thing is a hypothesis or a goal. Secondly is a description of what's actually changed. And then the third is the metric of success. The fourth, which is optional, is a screenshot of the changes. I find this really useful if you put a before and after shot, because then it can kind of drill in on what's actually changed. It can be a bit difficult if you're doing a more nebulous test, like a theme test where you've made a change to a lot of stuff, or there's like global stuff, or something wasn't existing and now it is. So this doesn't always work, but the more context you can give the LLM, the better it's going to be at helping you figure out what's going on. So I'm just going to copy this and drop it into Claude so we can start going through it. It's one of the annoying things about copying and pasting between these platforms is that the formatting is always broken. Doesn't matter for Claude, but for me, I find it a little bit annoying. So let's pop the JSON in here. So this is the file that I downloaded a second ago from the downloader. I'll just open this up full screen. Okay, so did that actually, yeah, okay, that's in there now. And now we'll go through and fill in these three things. So let's start with the hypothesis and goal. I like using the if, then, because format for stating hypotheses and goals. It just keeps it nice and uniform. So in this case, the experiment that we were running was a change of the product cards. Now we made this responsive. So I think my designer actually designed it for desktop, but he designed a version for mobile as well. And the idea that we had was the previous product card didn't look this nice. The way the color swatches were formatted, the sizing of the images, the way the reviews were formatted was, and there are a couple of other elements that were included on the cards, were quite convoluted, and they added quite a lot of cognitive load. So as you're browsing through a lot of products, and because this brand has, several hundred, maybe even several thousand SKUs or SKUs, if you're browsing through for 5 or 10 minutes, it can become kind of overwhelming if you have these signals flashing at you the whole time. So our theory was that if we simplified the product cards and made it easier to browse for a long time without feeling fatigued, then people would do exactly that. They'd spend more time looking through the catalog, and they were more likely to find the thing that they were looking for. So ultimately, we expected the conversion rate to go up. So how I write that into if, then, because, and this is not going to be concise. If I was writing this for the purposes of documentation or sharing the task with my team, I would do it a little bit differently. But for the sake of LLMs, it's fine to give more context than less. So we'd say, if we simplify the product cards on the collection page, it's probably all right. Then I'm just thinking whether I should add more detail in here, but for the sake of this video, I'll just keep it short. Then the conversion rate will also, then visitors will browse longer and convert, and the conversion rate will go up because the visitor is less likely to leave since they're not as mentally fatigued, and more likely to find the perfect product that they're looking for. Okay, so if, then, because. So what changed? So product card was cleaned up visually. The product image increased in height. Some of the elements were visually rearranged to make the hierarchy cleaner. Oops, hierarchy, can't spell. Cleaner and easier to look at. Some elements were removed. Okay, that's enough. And then the metric, so for this one, we're just doing conversion rate. I'm gonna get rid of this stuff. Cool. And then we give the LLM a prompt to go and review the JSON file. I'm just gonna drop in, here's a screenshot of the new design. So I'm just gonna drop in a copy of the new design, just the desktop version. I've actually copied this from last time when I did this video, but the sound didn't work, so I've had to do the whole thing again. Here's a screenshot of the design, and then we trigger it. So if I was doing this for real, I'd probably go and get a copy of the original, the control. I don't have it in Figma, it's saved somewhere else. Oops. So a little bit difficult to go and do that, but it's okay just to drop the new one in. Okay. Here we go. So before we look at this, there's going to be repetition. This is not going to be gospel. You need to take these things don't take them at face value. Don't take them as what am I trying to say here? You need to take them lightly and with a grain of salt. So when you read through the results, it might be like, wow, that's incredible. But LLMs tend to make stuff up. So go and do your own independent research. Use this as a framework or guidelines. So if you don't have any idea what's going on with the test, go through this process. It'll give you some ideas to go and investigate. And all you need to do then is jump into like heat maps or session recordings or analytics, or even if you just go and play around with the site yourself and think about how customers may go through the process. It can often dispel or like back up some of the claims that the LLM is making when you go through this process. But yeah, this is a really good process if you're a little bit stuck or you're unsure what the results mean, because it can back you up in kind of like an unbiased way. Okay, so let's go through this. Simplified product cards created divergent experiences by device. So desktop users thrived, they engaged more, explored deeper, and spent 25% more per order. So that aligns almost exactly with our hypothesis. So if we make things easier for customers to continue browsing on the collection page, then they'll find what they want, they'll spend more money, they'll convert more. Interesting that the AOV was the biggest movement there, but still, that's good stuff. Mobile users didn't convert as well. They click through more and then abandon at checkout. So they suggest that simplified cards work for discovery but may have removed critical information on mobile. Shoppers need to make quick purchase decisions while on the go. And that's legitimate feedback as well. So we did remove a couple of things from the cards and make them visually a bit smaller. So maybe if we were to run this test again, and I think we actually did run this test again, what we would focus on is increasing the size of some of those elements, rearranging the hierarchy on mobile and making sure that people have what they need. I would go and make some theories around what shoppers need on mobile. I'd go and have a look at some of the competitors and see what they're doing and what their collection cards look like, just to make sure that we have all of the information there. There's probably something that's missing, but again, take these interpretations with a grain of salt. Maybe this is wrong. 2.6% conversion rate for this store is within the band of error. So it could just be flat. There could really be no change on mobile. Okay, and then I think there's going to be a bit of duplication down here. So focus on the critical patterns. Revenue, desktop jumped. Mobile revenue dropped. Okay. Top funnel wins didn't translate to purchases on mobile. That's good. This is actually giving us a bit more context about where the problem probably is. So it could even be that, it's probably wrapped in that product card somewhere. So you're experiencing a classic mobile desktop split. I don't know if that's classic, but sure. So I think we did optimize for desktop behavior. So that's probably fair feedback. Risks and hidden opportunities. This is repetitious. Plain English summary, repetitious again. So we're getting a bit of analysis out of this, but what I would do now is go and take a screenshot of the before and after for mobile and come back and ask the LLM what it thinks about the changes and where it thinks we could run another experiment to try and tune this up, because we saw a really good response from desktop, but the challenge now is to make mobile work as well. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much how you interpret results from the Shoplift experiment, Jason. The good thing about this process is you don't have to just use one JSON file. You can go and download 10 experiments and tell Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini the context of all the experiments. You can upload results from Google Analytics 4 or even Shopify itself, or like Triple Whale or any other analytics platform to back up what's happening. So the more context you can give the LLM, the more likely it is to give you some broader patterns about what's going on, especially if you do that over time. And there's a few techniques you can do to store the interpretations, but it is really, like, as I've said a few times, you should never use this as gospel. It's just a tool to give you some insights into where you should be looking for like the next step of your experimentation. So I'm going to leave this video here. Hopefully you got something out of it. Hopefully this is valuable. If it was, then please let me know. I'd love to hear. Cheers.